What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Meet the Bytes. I believe this is episode number 3. I believe it's episode number 3. And in this episode of Meet the Bytes, we have someone who is also from Airbyte, of course, because we're meeting the Bytes at Airbyte. We got Talia on here. Talia, thank you for joining me on here. I really appreciate that. It is not easy reaching out to people because we work at a startup. Everyone's very busy, and so it can be difficult getting people to join on the Meet the Bytes podcast that we have here in Airbyte. So thank you. Welcome to the interview. For anyone who doesn't know who Talia is, well, actually, no, Talia, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I can introduce myself.
Who are you, and what do you do here?
Yeah, I'm Talia. I head up product marketing at Airbyte, and product marketing here is product marketing, content marketing, and customer marketing. So a little bit of extra scope.
Awesome. Well, how long actually, I know the answer, but it seems like you've been doing product marketing for a while, but you weren't always just doing product marketing, right? You weren't a product marketing manager, but I think you're doing product solutions, or you were a product manager at Oracle as well.
Yeah, I was. So I actually started off in product solutions and then moved into product management, and then kind of accidentally ended up in product marketing. I had always done
accidentally.
Yeah. For a really long time, I was like, I don't want to be a marketer. I got over that really fast because I realized like being in marketing and go-to-market in general is the center of the business. And I think especially when you're working at startups and you realize like where does the growth come from? A lot of that happens on the go-to-market side in a really interesting way. And I think in general, our industry is evolving a lot, especially when it comes to product marketing and what product marketers are involved in. And so I got over that really fast, but I did kind of accidentally end up in product marketing. I had always done product management. I loved being close to the product and helping define what it was our users would need across the various companies I was at. But I always found myself in a very outbound product focused role. So I was doing a lot of conversations with customers on roadmap. I was doing a lot of research. I was talking to analysts. I was working with our sales teams on sales enablement. All of that kind of came to a head at my company 2 companies ago. I was at a place called Lightstep, and I had been doing this work. We had been trying to hire product marketing for a while, and one day my boss came to me and was basically like, can you just go start this product marketing thing over here? Like we need somebody to do product marketing.
Start it.
Well, we had a marketing team, and they needed somebody to do product marketing. They're like, can you like go do product marketing? We think you would be maybe okay at this. And so I jumped over and I did it, and I loved it. I realized it was everything I loved about product management minus backlog grooming, which is not the most fun. And yeah, it was kind of my sweet spot, and I have not looked back.
Just to look back a little further, right? Before even your career at Lightstep, and prior to that, I believe you were at Oracle, and prior to that was product marketing, product management, etc. You name it, right? Is this something you thought you always wanted to do, or working in tech? Was there something else you thought you would be, 5 or 6 years ago? I'm just really curious to see where you were a couple years ago, because you're head of product marketing here at Airbyte. Yeah. So, what were you thinking you would be doing compared to now?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I started my career, I, again, accidentally ended up at Oracle. So I was looking at a company called Blue Kai.
A lot of things happen accidentally.
A lot of accidental. a lot of really good mistakes. They're not mistakes. A lot of really good accidents. So I was talking to a company called Blue Kai, and I had been following them for a while I was in college, and they were like data targeting and measurement and advertising technology. And I knew I wanted to work for them. And they ended up getting acquired by Oracle. And so my first day was at Oracle, essentially. And I wanted to work in ad tech because I was always really fascinated by how we can maybe make use of data in a good way. Maybe naive at the time to think that a bunch of people who are working in ad tech are going to take the time to maybe like slow down and think, can we use this data to for not profit reasons? Obviously, we're still a business. We needed to focus on that. And so I think for me, I realized the passion that I had behind that was maybe not going to come to fruition in my day-to-day. But I was still really intrigued by the space, and the people were all incredibly smart, and just in general felt like data was the future in some capacity. And so I knew I wanted to be in that space. I knew I wanted to work in startups. And so when I left Oracle, I like left there and went to a 9-person startup. It was a huge shock. And I was their first product hire. And I think just in those roles, especially early on, when you do product management, you're also doing product marketing a lot of the time. And when I was at Oracle, I was an outbound product manager, which is essentially product marketing, depending on how you think about it, or depending on the organization. To answer your question, though, did I think I would be here? I don't think I knew where I was going to be. I think I knew that I wanted to work in tech. I knew I wanted to work in something like more technical. But I'm pretty sure that when I was 8, I told my dad I was going to be in Forbes one day. So like maybe it started young.
I mean, you never know. You're on your way. Being ahead of any department in Silicon Valley, right? That will of course take you places. So that's awesome. For me personally, I thought I'd be a professional gamer my whole life. I tried, I failed. So now I prefer my life in tech compared to gaming. But anyway,
Yeah.
that's very random. I do have a particular question actually in regards to PMM.
Yeah.
There's PMM and then PM, right? What are the differences between those for people who don't know what that is?
Yeah, definitely. So I think that this is different in every organization, but there's some like general rules that you can follow. Product management to me is really focused on the customer. How do we make their experience with the product better? How do we create more opportunities for them to gain value with your product? Whereas product marketing is more market focused. It's how do we think about the market opportunity and where there are more ways for us to sell our existing solution and maybe introduce areas that we haven't yet done product development in that we should be developing product in. So PMMs are like very ingrained with prospects. They're very ingrained with analysts. They're really like spread across an industry and thinking about where this industry is going to evolve and how our product should evolve with that industry. Product management, more internal, thinking about how we can make our existing solution as good as it can be. And also thinking about like revenue opportunities when product marketing comes back and says, hey, we identified this gap in the market and we think we can build a solution for it. Product managers can help say, okay, let's assign revenue to this. This is what we think it's going to be. And then product managers at the end of the day are deciding whether or not to build that product. Product marketing is also very behind the scenes in many ways. Like a lot of the work that I do is to enable others. And so like with something like sales enablement, like my team's roles there are to make sure that the sales team is as equipped as they can be to understand our product, message it properly, be like the experts on it and know what's coming. So we make sure anytime there's product launches or anything like that, that they're just ready to sell it. So a lot of like behind the scenes work, I would say for both roles, but more so product marketing.
Does that mean I believe Andy's our product manager, right? A senior product
Yeah.
manager here. Does that mean you work with Andy a lot?
I do. I do work with both Andy and Andy a lot.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Yeah, we do. It has to be a close collaboration because I need to be aware of product that's being built so that I can think through how that's going to play into our content strategy, how that's going to play into what the sales team is potentially selling. Are there pricing changes that might be coming down the line that like we need to think about? Do we want to brief any analysts? Do we want to brief any press on what's coming? There's like a lot of stuff that you have to do on the go-to-market side to prepare for product. And so we talk a lot.
That's awesome. And eventually I want to bring them on here too.
Yeah, they're great.
I did have a question that came to the top of my head right now, and I'm really curious to hear your perspective, especially working at Airbyte. What is the most difficult? Maybe there's multiple difficult parts, but what is the most difficult job of someone who does product marketing?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah. And what makes a good product marketer?
Yeah.
Product marketer? Okay.
Product marketer. Yeah. I have like a cop out answer for working at a startup, but I won't go there. I'll try to keep it for product marketing. I think the most challenging thing with product marketing is honestly being able to attribute your value, like attribute value to the work that you're doing. Like I mentioned, it's a lot of behind the scenes work. It's a lot of strategy, which I think is not a word that it's not a word I love to use. I don't think it means that much to a lot of people, but it is at the end of the day a lot of strategy. You're thinking through how best set up the business to be successful, and you're doing that cross functionally across product, across sales, sometimes across engineering. across like supporting other marketing functions. And so it can just be really challenging to figure out where to stop and prioritize time for the bottom line. And for us right now, we're really thinking about revenue. And so everything I do is a lens of how we can generate more revenue. But there's a lot of different outlets I can do that in. And it's not always clear what's going to be the most impactful. And so that can be a challenge.
And so I'm assuming you have to take a lot of risk, I'm assuming, right? Because you don't know what will actually work. Every market's totally different.
Yeah, sometimes it definitely feels that way. It can feel like you're throwing spaghetti at a wall. But you also you're making decisions based on past experiences too, and you're asking like others what they've done. But I think across the board, you ask product marketers like how they measure success. Everyone will kind of look at you with a blank stare for a second and say like, that's a joke, right? Not to say you can't measure success of product marketing, but it's just more challenging. And so that's on that front. I think what makes good product marketers is people who are able to, honestly, like work across multiple work streams very efficiently, be able to work really well with other stakeholders and understand their audience. And so what I tell people is when you are working with a sales team, for example, you have to make sure that you're speaking sales. When you're working with an engineering team, you have to make sure you're speaking engineering. And I think that can be challenging for people to context switch between. And it's not always obvious that they don't know why you're coming to them with something. And I think that's because you're so in the center of a lot of different projects that you jump between those projects and don't always realize like if you need something from an engineer or need something from sales, you have to explain it to them in a way that they're going to get. And then I think somebody who's like super ingrained with a customer, like being the voice of the customer, being the voice of the prospect and our industry, and being able to say, these are the problems that people are facing. These are the solutions that they have today. This is where the gap is. And this is where like Airbyte can help that gap is a really, really big superpower for our product marketers.
I mean, I guess as part of my next question on what makes a good product marketer, especially in tech, that means you need to understand the technical aspects of whatever you're marketing, right? Whether if you're working at, name whatever company, if it's transforming data or ETL, right? ELT, you have to actually understand the technical aspects. How much do you have to understand? This understanding everything, is that what makes a good product marketer? Because you're not technically building anything in regards to code.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I have struggled with this a lot, not having an engineering background. And this goes back to not wanting to be labeled a marketer back in my day. One of the reasons why is because I work in developer tools and a lot of people just assume marketers are going to be less technical. And I think that's definitely shifting. What I tell people, and when I was a product manager working with engineers, what I described to them was my superpower is actually that I'm not as technical as you. I'm here to be more the voice of problems we're solving and not solution on how to solve them, but just like identify what the highest priority item is we should be building towards, and then work with you to build that solution. And so I think there is some advantage to not being, fully ingrained in the tech, knowing the ins and outs, but you do need to understand the landscape. You need to understand the impact of different technologies. You need to understand core concepts and be able to explain them to people in a way that's easy to understand. And especially, like we said, I talk to our product team all the time. I have to understand the impact of the work that we're putting out there. And if I didn't understand our ecosystem or our technology, I wouldn't be able to be creative in the way that we're messaging differentiation.
And then what shows that you're successful then in product marketing? Now, I'm in DevRel. It is very hard to measure what is successful or not in DevRel, and not ask any company. It's very difficult, and it's different from company to company. So here at Airbyte, what do you measure as success, especially in particularly being at a startup?
Yeah, definitely. So I think with us, thankfully, our go-to-market team is all really aligned on revenue, like I mentioned, and our OKR process. We do these quarterly OKRs. We're all working towards this one goal, and then we've got smaller OKRs. So I have the benefit of being aligned to this revenue number as well, and then having smaller OKRs within that. Right now, one of the things that I look at is conversions. I think conversions, meaning conversion rate across our website. I don't think it has to be that.
Is that signups when people sign up for our open source software or cloud?
Yeah, so basically land on the website and then sign up for our commercial offerings or our cloud product. I am a really strong believer that product marketing teams should always just be aligned to whatever the company goal is. Usually that's revenue or it's logo acquisition. or it's expansion of accounts. And I think the reason being is because we touch so many things that it just like it's easier to paint the picture of your impact when you're thinking across how you're impacting the rest of the teams to reach their OKRs. Yeah. But it can be challenging. So like to me, if I'm thinking about success with a product launch, it can be product usage. It could be how much revenue did that product launch drive? If you think about success with content, it can be like how many views you're driving to content, how many downloads you're getting on content if you're doing anything gated. With like press or analyst relations, it can just be like how much coverage you're getting. So like those are kind of the metrics I look at, but I really like to be associated to like a bottom line number.
Definitely. Well, thank you for answering that. It's really nice to know what metrics every team, not just everybody, any company uses. It differs from team to team. Now, in regards to product marketing, right, and PMM, what's the most important thing that you look for when it comes to product marketing in general? What is like if there's I don't know if it's fair to say one thing. There's so much, right? No, I'm just going to say one thing. There you go. You're on the podcast. Sorry, you got no choice. What's that one? You could say two things. What is that one crucial thing that you look for in PMM?
Oh, that's so hard to answer. One crucial thing, I would say I leave. So like with a candidate, you mean? Or just like
candidate? Yeah. I guess, yeah. We could say candidate, but also even in regards to both the candidate and when it comes to just product marketing.
Yeah. A candidate or like, okay. I think I got this. I walk away from an interview super jazzed when I feel like I spoke to somebody who truly understands the differences in audiences. And to me, that means like they know what to do when they're talking to the end user. They know what to do when they're talking to a buyer. They know what to do when they're talking to internal stakeholders. And they shift their strategy based on all of those different personas. And to me, that indicates just somebody who is more senior and understands efficiency. Like efficiency, productivity is huge to me. I like talk to a lot of people all the time, and it's really important to not waste time because people aren't understanding like what you're trying to tell them. So that is something that I walk away with. I'm really excited about. I think if I look at like product marketing in general, if I think about like what does success of an org look like and what do I think about when I, dream about my product marketing team in the future, I call them SWAT teams.
SWAT teams. Wow.
SWAT teams. Because you basically, so you want the org to be able to come to product marketing for anything. Like product marketing to me is the person that you can come to, ask any question for, and they have an answer, or they can point you in the right direction. And that to me is when you reach success with a product marketing team. And it's high value answers, right? It's not just like program funneling to other parts of the org. It's being able to say, like, this is a concise answer to your question. This is who you should talk to get more information, or this is why like this isn't important, essentially.
So the next question I want to have, thank you for helping me with this question. What is the opposite of a successful product marketing manager?
I think somebody who isn't prioritizing work well. They're kind of just like crossing off tasks, because it's really easy to end up with a task list in front of you and just like be overwhelmed. I think somebody who isn't ingrained with the prospects or customers in a way that they can understand impact to them. Like if you're getting information about a product and you are trying to create, a messaging framework for it, and you don't understand that person really, really well, you're not going to create something that is going to resonate with them. And so at that point, it just becomes about running through an exercise instead of being more strategic. And I think people who, this more speaks to my style, but like I like my work. I love Airbyte. I love what we do. And I think like you need to be excited. I know. John, are you listening? You need to be excited about what you're doing because you're doing so much. And like, I think this speaks to, somebody once told me, like, you can't be a CEO of a company and not be incredibly passionate because you're just like completely overworked all the time. Invested. And I think that's and I think that's the same here. Like you have to be really invested in order to do your job well. And so if you're kind of like, I just like kind of like this, I don't really care about the space, you're never going to be creative or like a top 5% product marketer, I think.
No, I agree 110%. At a larger corporate company, that's normal. just all right, here's my to-do list and that's it. But we're not a large corporate company, not technically a big, we're not Facebook or you name it, whatever big companies out there. We're a startup.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to
We're
work at a
scrappy.
startup, yeah, we're scrappy. We all wear many different hats. And actually, this is what I want to bring up. It's really interesting because I'm working on things that I'm sometimes, I do this here and there, but work until 12 or 1 a.m. trying to get some things done so I can catch up because I had a couple of days off. I saw you online doing things around 12 a.m., 1 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. You're in no, you're not. You're in San Francisco.
I'm in
I
San
think you're in New
Francisco,
York, but so same time as me, and it's really late. Are you you work a lot, and it's because you are. From what you said, you're invested, and I think that's so important. Now, I'm not saying everyone needs to work 60, 80 hours a week, right?
Yeah.
But you are invested. You really care about the product, and I personally see that. And I don't even work with you directly.
Yeah.
I work with you when we go to conferences. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's amazing to see how invested you are, and it pushes me too. It really does. And I'm not just saying,
Yeah.
I really mean it. I never just give compliments to anyone. You can ask Justin, the other developer advocate. I give him 0 compliments. But I don't just give out compliments
circle
like
back with
that.
Justin on that.
Oh gosh, dude. Actually, let's cut this off. Whoever's editing this podcast, please take this out. Just kidding. And we are going to go to a particular section where I want to play like a little game with you. But before we get to that part, and I think you talked about this a little bit, like in regards to the big parts in regards to product marketing, right?
Yeah.
What is extremely important about that is product marketing about helping people understand your product more easily? Because that's what I do in DevRel. My goal is to help people understand how to use Airbyte, helping people understand the difficult concepts in regards to what we do here. Is that the exact same thing with product marketing as well?
Yeah. So I think there's a little bit of difference here. And I think this is where you get into like DevRel community product marketing. There is a ton of overlap, especially in developer tools. I think the biggest difference you can think about is your end goal. So we're both explaining concepts in simple ways. We're both trying to show value to people. One is for the creation of community and momentum and like creating a movement around our product. The other is to tie back to revenue immediately. And while community is still going to tie back to revenue, the timeline in which that happens is, I think, a little bit slower. Whereas I think for me, product marketing's immediate goals every day is just like, what can we do to increase revenue today? Or what can we do to increase customer count today? And so it really is an exercise of explaining value to an industry in the loudest way you can do it, as often as possible, in front of the right people. And that's where understanding your personas comes in. Like, I wouldn't be able to be effective in my job if I didn't know what channels to be in front of, what message to change for those different channels, which analysts to speak to, like what kind of press opportunities are important to us, how to support our sales team in terms of what collateral they might need. And like, that's why it's always all one big collaboration with everyone. And that's honestly what I love about Airbyte is we all work very, very closely together for this one goal.
Yes.
But when you're in the center of it in a way that's just amplifying other people's work, you have to be putting yourself in their shoes and thinking about what their end goal is, and then just like enabling that as much as you can. It's my long-winded answer for you.
Awesome. No, thank you. And we're going to do a quick game after this, but before I get into that, one question I really wanted to ask, do you like sports?
I do like sports. I like the Warriors.
You do like sports. You like the Warriors? So,
I do.
In case people do not know, and they will after watching this, you are a hardcore Golden State Warriors fan. I think you went to almost every NBA playoff game, home game in San Francisco. Is that correct?
I did not go to every NBA
playoff okay.
game. My friends and family are going to die when they see this. They're gonna be like, she doesn't care about basketball. I do care about basketball. I love sports. I love basketball. I love the Warriors. I really like going to sporting events. Like, I think it's a really good time. I grew up in the Bay Area, and so like like back in 2006, so like Baron Davis days, like I like was
old school days.
I would consider an OG fan. I think a lot of OG fans would laugh at this, but no, I like the Warriors. I go to a lot of games.
So you're not riding the bandwagon. You actually love the Warriors. And,
I'm not. Yeah.
I want to share that I grew up in Daly City. I grew up in the Bay Area, and I'm also a very hardcore Golden State
Nice.
Warriors fan, as you can tell from my hat. Yes, but okay, cool. And other than that, though, is there any other interesting facts that even I don't know about you? Is there anything interesting you want people to know about you, Talia?
I love to cook. I, for a long time, had said I'm in startups because I want to open a restaurant one day.
Whoa, what kind of restaurant?
Yeah, so I don't know. I like maybe Mediterranean. I also really like cooking Mexican food. I like Japanese food. My family's
So a fusion
Moroccan,
restaurant.
so yeah, exactly, fusion. I would do like some sort of Mediterranean Moroccan food probably. As my proper restaurant. In retirement, I am 100% opening a sandwich shop. That's like my lifelong dream always.
Nice.
If I can do it sooner, would love to do it sooner. But I know I want like a proper restaurant and a sandwich shop. So yeah, I love to cook. My brother-in-law though was a chef at a restaurant and like completely turned me off to that lifestyle. So I like been rethinking that. But I think a sandwich shop is actually a little bit less intense than a proper restaurant.
Yeah, definitely. Probably, maybe a little. I can't say it's easy. I don't know anything about the restaurant business. That's awesome. Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So now, before we end this episode, so a big part of product and marketing is taking the hard concepts and making them easy to understand, right? And so that's why we're going to do a game called Explain It Like I'm 5. So your goal is to explain it like I'm 5, and I'm gonna ask you a couple questions. And to make this a little bit more fun, you're going to have 45 seconds. I'm going to make it hard. Okay, 45 seconds. You'll have 45 seconds to answer these questions. Yes, 45 seconds is still hard.
Okay.
But you have 45 seconds to answer these questions. Are you ready? First question is, what is the difference between ETL versus ELT? Ready, begin.
Okay. So ELT is extract, load, and transform. ETL is extract, transform, and load. That's just basics there. I think I'm going to use Skittles in this example.
Skittles,
so
okay.
imagine you have a whole bunch of Skittles. They're sitting in a jar. You've got like Skittles of a bunch of different colors. Imagine that you want to take the Skittles from that jar and move them into a bucket. And now imagine that bucket has a lid and there's like a bunch of holes punched in that bucket, and the holes are going to be square shaped because Skittles are round. And that's
7 seconds.
Of a problem. That's kind of a problem because you need to circle Skittles into square peg lid. And so you need some sort of machine to transform those Skittles into a square. And that is basically what ETL is. If you give me like 15 extra seconds, I will explain value of ELT to ETL.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so if you have this machine that we're talking about, right, that's moving Skittles from jar to bucket and transforming them, imagine now you just like maybe wasted a whole bunch of time because you maybe don't need all of those Skittles to be square. And then what if you wanted some like triangle Skittles instead? And so with ELT, which is the superior version to how to move data around, you are going to use this machine, these hands, to move Skittles from jar to bucket and then decide to change them into squares or triangles or whatever when they're actually inside that bucket.
Nice. I've never heard that explanation
this 45
before.
second thing is actually really, really hard.
Yeah, it's been about a minute, and it took about a minute 45 seconds. That's okay. Okay. Next question. So it's just answering as fast as possible. Okay. As fast as possible.
Okay, cool.
I'll give you 50 seconds. 50 seconds. Okay. Okay. So next, what is data orchestration? Ready, go.
Okay, I'm just gonna stick with Skittles. So we had our jar. We've got our like square making machine. We've got our bucket with holes. That's like all a bunch of stuff that we need to manage. There's like literally fair games to decipher how many Skittles are in a jar. So like that's how much stuff is going on. Anyways, like let's just call those a bunch of toys. We want something to make sure that all those toys play really well together, and we want to make sure that things like the jar lid opens on time, that it's not leaking Skittles, that the machine that's transforming them, it's transforming them into squares instead of triangles. All of that is data orchestration, and basically making sure that there's something managing the the infrastructure that is moving data.
Awesome. You did it this one in 54 seconds. So good job on that.
Oh my God.
This is not easy. I'm
This
never
is not
gonna
easy.
this game will never happen to me. This is happening to everyone else I'm interviewing. Okay. Next question. Actually, there's a list of questions. I'm gonna ask something that's not on there. Okay. So
Oh my God.
this is really fun. Okay, so this is the question. Why ELT over ETL? It doesn't have to be like explain like in five. Not this
That
one.
ELT.
Yeah,
Not ELT5. Okay.
yeah.
So why ELT over ETL? So like if you think about the way our industry has evolved and just like this explosion of data and the introduction of cloud and everything, we're just seeing like a whole lot more data than we have ever seen before.
Mm-hmm.
With ETL, you basically had to make a choice to transform data before it got loaded into a data warehouse. That limits you in what you can do with it. With ELT, you're moving your data into a destination and then you're choosing to make a transformation on it. And like that saves you a lot of overhead. It also gives you the ability to make a lot of more strategic decisions with what you want to do with that data. And I think honestly, that's the like simplest way I think about it.
Awesome. You did this one in 45 seconds.
Because
Wow.
it wasn't
Good job.
Skittles.
That's true. Actually, you're right. That's a really good point. That's a really good point. Okay. Last question. There's a lot of different questions there, but one more. Just one more.
Yeah.
Explain it like I'm 5. Why Airbyte? There you go.
Why Airbyte?
What is Airbyte? I'm sorry. What is Airbyte? I apologize.
What is Airbyte? So I mean, if I go back to my jar example, like imagine there are a ton of different jars in this world. There's a ton of different buckets in this world. You can fill those jars and buckets with literally anything. You have forever had people tell you that there's a limited way in which jars and buckets can speak to each other. Airbyte blows that out of the water. We're basically telling you, regardless of the jar, regardless of the bucket, regardless of what's filled in those jars, you can move that stuff into your bucket. And I think that's like a good way to explain that.
No, that's exactly it. And that's why Airbyte is going to kill it. And we are working for a great company. Awesome. Thank you for answering those questions. Are there any last words you want to share with anyone that, potential future candidates or anyone in general that you want to share with here before we end this episode?
Yeah. I mean, I think Airbyte is a wonderful place to work. Obviously, I'm biased. I joined in February.
Are you listening, John and Michelle? Are you listening?
I made the right choice. I've been here a little over 6 months now, and I think the thing that has just felt true with this opportunity is that we're continuing to experience organic growth and that every day is a new challenge, but it's really exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And there is light at the end of the tunnel. I think a lot of times when you work at a startup, it can feel kind of gloomy, doomsday on like, is there a survival path for us? Airbyte feels like a group of people who very confidently feel like we have a really bright future. And that's just really energizing to work with. It's like a very collaborative, very smart group of people. And we have a lot of very cool products coming out soon. We have a lot of people who really care about the vision around data movement and like access to data. And so I would say to anyone out there who's looking for a role, especially on the product marketing front, we're hiring. You heard what I look for in a quality PMM, so now you know how to crush the interview.
Excellent. Talia, thank you so much for being this episode. I know how busy you are. This has been really fun. And everyone watching, if you can, please hit that subscribe button, like this video, and if you want to see the next episode, stay tuned. Thank you. Bye.
Cool. Thanks, Chris.